Welcome to chess, ladies and gentlemen. All right, man, I appreciate everybody very much for stopping by. So, I went ahead and went way back in the day, almost 20 years ago, to one of Wesley So's games when he was a young, an IM, which for some people is still pretty high because they're not IMs yet. You know who you are, me. Anyways, so this is 2006 Singapore Masters Tournament. And then we have Zhao Jun. Also, so all my people from the Philippines, I would say maraming salamat. Aking makaibigan po sa nanonood in king my video. Let me see. Hello ulit. I appreciate you guys very much for stopping by. Anybody who is coming up from China, I will say shishih. I appreciate you guys very much for stopping by. But if you guys are ready to go, let's take a look and see what we got for this game, son. All right, man. So we got the move D4. We got knight to F6. We got C4, E6. So this is an Indian game. This is the Neo-Indian. If I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure when you play E6, you are basically preparing either to support the Queen's Gambit decline or you are going to go a Nimzo Indian if you see knight to C3. And what do you know? We see knight to C3 and then bishop B4. So we have the Nimzo Indian. I'm scared, man. It's tough, man. I don't know, bro. Anyways, you guys know that this is a very legitimate position for white, even though it looks kind of scary. You're pinning down the knight. Just make sure you don't have any knight to E4s coming up, and I think you're good to go. We do see knight to F3. We got the move C5 trying to break down what white has established in the center. We got the move G3, pawn takes D4, knight takes D4. We got castles up by black. We got bishop to G2. And then we see the move D5, which it kind of might seem like, hey, man, if I capture here, they capture, they got stupid, double pawns. They're ugly. And then I don't have to play D5. I can kind of keep everything kind of like, keep their structure bad, not allow them to, undo their damage. Which is one way to think about it. But if we go into what that looks like, let's say you look at bishop takes C3 with check and then you celebrate because you're like, hey, man, I went ahead and doubled their pawns. Well, what you've just done is given up a bishop for a knight. And the position is still pretty open. So you could possibly be going into an inferior endgame just for the sake of giving your opponent double hanging pawns. So, I mean, sometimes you have to kind of look at the situation. And, that's why it's important to know endgames because understanding the position, how it might unfold into an endgame is important so that you don't make a bad opening or middle game decision. Going back to what we had in the game, like I said, we did see the move D5, which kind of seems, like I said before, you're going to double white's pawns, but, I mean, you're going to help them out with being able to capture here or here. One of the things you do have to be paying attention to, and it is going to become very relevant later on in the game, this bishop can be a monster on this diagonal, and it can mess up all your development over here, stuff like that. So, I mean, you do kind of want to blunt it just a little bit. So D5 is making an effort to try to put up kind of like a wall so that you can't penetrate. We do see castles by white. We got pawn taking C4, which kind of undoes what I just got done talking about, but what you are trying to think about is the compensation of maybe being able to hold this pawn. If you can hold the C4 pawn, then you will have material advantage, and maybe you can kind of squirm out of this danger of this bishop. So it stands to be seen. We do see queen to A4, which does hit this bishop because it's just sitting there, kind of hanging out all by itself. Then we do see knight to A5, and because like I said before, this bishop is really, really barreling down on this diagonal. This bishop is kind of glued where it's at for the moment. You absolutely do. I mean, you can go here because this is hitting the queen, which we will see in a second. But you definitely want to try to stay away from just abandoning this pawn because if bishop does take here, you're looking at this. And I know that I wouldn't be the only one that's fallen victim to this type of a situation. And I love seeing it if it's, if I'm dishing it out. We do see rook to D1. And this is, putting the rook opposite the queen, as you guys hear me say, infinitum. It is never a bad thing because then you have free movement for this knight if you can maybe choose an explosive move. So we do see bishop taking C3, and this is the novelty of the game. Very logical idea. You're just kind of getting rid of the issues that you have. We do see pawn taking C3 and then bishop to D7. And yes, like I said before, you do have the bishop capturing here, but you can't do it at the moment because the bishop is hitting the queen. So you have to try to figure out what are you going to do with your queen. We do see queen going down to A3. Still kind of influencing this situation right here. but we are eyeballing maybe possible d6 squares. We do see queen going over to c7, kind of just in time, making sure that we protect the b7 pawn. We do see rook to b1. And I mean, I will say this about both sides. Both sides have played very, very principled moves so far. You know, queen to c7 is definitely one of the major moves in these positions. You know, you have a half open file, so you're going to be putting some pressure with your bishop. You got an open light square diagonal. So, I mean, both players have played very principled moves. Bishop d7 came with a little hit on the queen right here. So, you know, I mean, neither side has really, you know, kind of thrown away a chance to make a good quality move. So that is something you definitely want to do in your games. We do see knight to c5, and this is just protecting b7 right here. And everything is everything. And I did not... Okay, I did that. Okay, yes, that is protecting this here. So like I said before at the beginning of the game, you know, you have this Catalan type of structure, you know, this fianchetto, kingside, you know, fianchetto type situation. And even me, myself, in some games, I mean, I definitely do find it hard when I play against d4 is black to kind of get myself unraveled. And I'm always, I mean, you know, you have the situation where knight to e5 can come. You know, you're looking at like a hold on c6 type deal. So sometimes, I mean, this is a very, very irritating thing to play against. So if you can master that, I think you're going to have a lot of great days in your chess career. But we do see knight going to b5, and you kind of have some issues if you're here. You might not be able to see it yet, but you really don't have a whole lot of good options other than going what we saw in the game, bishop taking b5 and then rook taking b5. And it kind of seems like, hey, man, I gave up both my bishops, bro. Like, why did I give up my bishops and then white has double bishops? Yes, definitely white is a little bit better here, but going back in the position, there really wasn't much better. The knight is currently hitting the queen. The queen kind of needs to stay, you know, kind of in this vicinity because if the knight moves somewhere, you are looking at a lot of pressure, especially if you can go knight to d6. So if we just take a look at maybe a couple of different options, queen to b6 is diabolical. I don't know why in the world you would go queen to b6 because, I mean, bam, and then bam. But, you know, for the sake of argument, I mean, this is a blunder. The computer's like, bro, I hate this move. I don't know why you made this. Lowly human. Bishop would go to e3. Now you are pinning this knight down. If you tried to save with like rook to f to c8, maybe you would be looking at knight to d6. And it's like, nah, bruh. This is not where you want to be. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. Like, what do you do? What do you want? I don't know. Anyway, if we didn't see queen to b6, let's say we saw like, you know, queen to c8 back in this position here. You know, knight to d6 and dreams do come true. It's kind of the similar ideas. It's just a little bit of a different position. So we didn't see any of that. Wesley So just said, bro, I'm just going to go ahead and just allow my bishops to just be gone. This is not a lost position. It is definitely preferable for white, but it's something that you can play out of as black. We do see knight c to e4, and that's just Wesley So's way of trying to block down that diagonal. We do see bishop to f4, and then we see queen to c6, and this is another diabolical move. The situation has gotten somewhat dire. We do kind of have this queen behind this knight, and this bishop is barreling down. So basically, like the entirety of this game so far has been, you know, the strength of this bishop on g2, and it just gets a little bit crazier. We do see rook d to b1, just making sure that we, you know, protect this rook over here, and then we are putting max pressure on b7, and then we do see b6, and like I said, this is diabolical on just a grand scale. You saw the thumbnail. I mean, the bishop is hitting this. It's hitting this. It's hitting this. This diagonal is completely open. This is not quite where you want to be if you are Wesley So here. You know, it's kind of like you start to get in a situation where you really don't have any solid moves. You're basically going to be choosing like, you know, a bunch of like terrible moves. And I mean, there's just basically bad to worst. So we do see the move rook to e5, and this just kind of adds pressure to this knight here on e4. It kind of seems like, I mean, these knights are doing really well. They're essentially placed, especially this one. This one is an octopus, but right now the octopus doesn't really make any sense because bam, right? You know, we don't want the bishop killing the queen. So we have actually reached a position. There is a bailout move. It's pretty crazy that you have to give up a little bit here, but there is a bailout move that you can try to make here in this position if you are Wesley. So if you want to pause the video and try to guess that move, go ahead and do so. Okay, so You basically have to get really comfortable with giving up your rook on A8. Trading the bishop on G2 for the rook on A8. And you start to do that by the move queen to D6. That is the first move. You are trying to, unpin the queen from this nasty pin, but you're trying to do it in a way that challenges white, and this is one of the challenges because this queen is undefended. So you would be looking at queen taking D6, knight taking D6, and then bishop taking A8, and you just call it a day. You basically say, hey, man, you know what? I lost my rook. I'm down. I don't have double bishops, but at least I let, white give up one of their bishops for my rook. This, you can play out of this. Like, you can salvage this. This is not what Wesley So did. We would go back into position. After rook went to E5, we saw a rook A to D8. And, I mean, you can understand the thought process because you're like, hey, man, you know what? My rook is behind the queen and the bishop is like a monster. This is like the best piece on the board, bishop. But, you got to try to get rid of the pins. And this seems a logical way to do it, but unfortunately, it does not quite work. We do see queen going to B2. And we are definitely thinking of redirecting to C2 and just adding the maximum amount of pressure on this E4 knight. So we do see the move H6. We're trying to dislodge this bishop from this strong post. The bishop on F4 is restricting white, Wesley So's queen of like where it can retreat to. So there's just so many problems that you're trying to kind of like rectify. You're trying to get rid of these problems. We do see H4, making sure that we maintain the bishop. We got queen over to A4, but this just kind of drops the knight. There really wasn't much better. The computer was actually suggesting queen to A4 at some point. So it was like, hey, bro, you've already lost the knight, bro. Just try to, like, cut your losses and do something else. So we do see bishop taking E4. We got rook to D1 with check, and then we do see king to G2. And it is in this position that Wesley So resigns the game. And so Wesley So is like 12 or 13 at this point. So he's an international master, so he's fairly strong, but he just hasn't quite gotten, to like the Wesley So that we know today. Malacca see Wesley So type situation. If we kind of go back in the position, let's go back. Let me see where I want to go back. If we can get back into this position right here, this would be roughly about kind of where, you still have some possibilities of kind of making something go on. Instead of going queen to C6, which seems like it attacks the rook, it doesn't because, you have this here, you have rook sliding over here, after knight to E4. So we had knight C to E4, and then we have this position, and we have this, which kind of seems like it's hitting the rook, but it doesn't because of the rook over here like this. Going back in this position right here, we did have the ability to just go rook A to C8, and then we get rid of that, that pin right there. And then at some point you can play B6, and you don't really have any worries because the rook is not there. The queen is not on the same line. So it's like the biggest thing that you need to do as black is recognize that this bishop is a absolute monster. And we need to be making moves to try to make sure that we're getting, out of those issues and stuff. So, like I said, all of my people that are coming from the Philippines, I will say, mabuhay, magandang umaga, magandang hapon, magandang gabi, magandang araw, whatever time it is for you at your current point when you watch this video. If you watch this video, I appreciate it. Maraming salamat, mabuting pagbati to you. Best wishes and everything. Anybody who's coming from China, I will say ni hao, xie xie ni, and we to jian, and I'll see you guys next time.